Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 2Have 2Role podcast. My name is Oliver. Today, Robin and I are joined by Sara Roberts, also known as the Hype Goblin online. Sara makes content for TTRPGs and Dungeons and Dragons. She also has a very popular TikTok channel, which showcases probably some of the best original character TTRPG, lip syncs, cosplays, wig work that definitely I've ever seen. Her Twitch channel is also host to video game streams, TTRPG actual plays. She's a wonderful human being, and she's a very good friend of ours. So, without further ado, we bring you, the Hype Goblin.
So, hi y'all, I'm Sara Roberts. I'm the Hype Goblin. You can find me on all social media under that name. I do a lot of, I don't want to say like TTRPG education, but just awareness content over on the YouTubes. I cover a lot of cosplaying your character, character creation from a writing, acting background standpoint for those who want to get into really heavy roleplay type things. And I do a lot of really goofy lip syncing videos over on TikTok as my characters.
The TikTok videos, you are perfecting them. So where did, because you had the Hype Goblin up and running before we started playing games together, kind of like off stream. You and Robin playing games together. What started the Hype Goblin? Was it TTRPGs or was it gaming?
Yeah, so I started out in gaming, and then I got into actual play producing and playing. And as I got more and more like professional at it, I was like, well, I should probably think up a different name than like Streaming Sara, because that sounds really lame.
Is that what you started with? Yeah. Streaming Sara. Yeah.
Yeah, no, actually my first name that I used on the internet in my very first game, which has since been taken down for I asked it to be, had my legal name. I was originally using my legal name as my handle, and then I was like, I probably shouldn't do that. So then I did Streaming Sara because I couldn't think of anything.
It's difficult because we've kind of not long been into we've done like personal content creation, but now it's becoming more of a product, if you like, whether you like it or not. People see it as a product. And at first, like I at first was like, oh, I'm totally fine using my own name, and then you're like, should we should I maybe not put my full name?
It's a weird one, isn't it? Because I think when you first start doing it, you're like, well, obvious, I'll just use my name, and then things start to blow up and you're like, oh, maybe that's not the best thing.
Yeah, for me it's a safety thing in this day and age. Like you never know. Like I don't want like people showing up. Like there was a while back, I remember back when Jenna Marbles was still on the internet. She and Julian talked about how people just one day just showed up at their house because they got doxxed. And I was like, I don't want to use my legal name in anything that's going out publicly.
No.
So I think it was around that time where I heard someone mention being a Hype Goblin, and I asked that person like, "Hey, where'd you hear that term? Is anyone using that?
Yeah,
I want to use that."
You call that one. That is a great one. I admit, like
it's such a good name.
Yeah, we came up for like this, like our stuff. We spent forever thinking of names forever, and sometimes I think you overthink it, don't you? You know,
you do.
Yeah, because like a lot of people just will go with their like internet username and then like tweak it. But at least like Streaming Sara is probably a good one to start out with because it has your name in it. It's what you do, and people will understand if you're like, oh, I'm just going to change it to the Hype Goblin.
Yeah, it was good, but it's not something that people would see on Twitch and be like, oh, I want to check out who this person is. I've had so many people just roll into my Twitch chat when we're live, and they're just like, I saw your username, and I think that's super cool. Where'd you think it up? And then it's all like an instant icebreaker and stuff. So
that's really
it's been good.
Yeah, because Goblin seems to be very synonymous with D&D in particular, you know, or at least TTRPGs, and because they're fantasy creatures. So there's a lot of brands out there with the Goblin. So that's if you have that in there, that's like we try to have like roll and the ampersand, you know, so people like will sort of go connect the two things, you know.
I love y'all's name. I think it's witty and really, really cute.
Yeah.
I adore it.
Yeah.
Remember when y'all were trying to find it?
Well, I was messaging you when we were trying to find it and forgetting that. I remember sending you lots of names, being like, what do you think of this one? And what about that one? And then it was that, but 2Have 2Role just obviously came when we were out walking the dog one day and just went, oh, that's better than all the things I just sent Sarah.
Names just come out of nowhere. If you think about it too hard, this has been like my experience with it, because I'm also getting ready to launch a podcast with a couple friends.
Hey.
And, it's gonna be my second podcast, a third podcast now. It's gonna be great.
Nice.
But we've spent 3 months trying to pick a name.
Yeah. It's tough because names can also like lock you into things as well. So if you go, oh, we are, the dice goblins, and then you go, okay, the goblins is good, the dice is good, that tells people we're playing TTRPGs. But then if the content starts maneuvering over to something like LARP or something like that, and you go, well, we have nothing to do with dice at all, and then you have to change it down the road.
Yeah, that was our biggest struggle, because I'm getting ready to do it with 2 other TTRPG creators, Indestructible Boy and Dungeon Dad, and they're both
Nice.
They're both great guys, but we all just sat around like shooting the shit one day. I'm sorry, can I say that?
Yes.
What's your rating?
Hey, don't worry.
We were all just sitting around talking one day after like getting on a call together just to vent, and we were just like, I am so burnt out on D&D content. Like, I just want to talk about nerd stuff, but if I do it, like no one's gonna click on that YouTube video. So we came up with the idea for this podcast mainly for our own mental health, that we just but then we have to think of a name that has nothing to do with D&D.
Yeah.
And it's just like,
it's tough.
That was the hardest thing in the world.
It sounds very similar to the inception of this podcast as well. It was literally just the stuff we talked about on our dog walks, and we were like, we should just like record it, like our conversations. But like you say, it's just casual conversation, so trying to think of a name for that is tough. It really is. So I'm guessing, when did you start getting into actual D&D? Because you cover TTRPG stuff, but it seems like you're predominantly 5th edition D&D. What stage did you get into tabletop role-playing games?
Yeah, 5e is my first love, and for all of its flaws, I still love it. I got into it in 2019 because Indoor Adventures found out that I'd never played before.
Ooh.
And so Simon, bless his heart, got me on one of his live streams when he was running a one-shot, which I don't recommend anyone play their first D&D game live on Twitch.
That's a lot of pressure.
That's something.
Yep, it was something. It was a fever dream. I don't remember anything other than my character lost her arm.
Yeah.
But other than that, like I don't do that. But from then on, I was kind of hooked.
Yeah, that's a lot. It's a lot of pressure because there's a lot of stop and starting with new players as well. It's a lot of like, oh, what is this? What is that? And I guess over stream as well. I mean, I guess it's good to have it if you have like one player out of a load that is new. It makes it more accessible, maybe, for people watching, being like, oh, this person's new, it doesn't seem so bad.
Yeah, I think I wish I would have found more good resources at the time. Now I know where to go find them, but I wish I would have had more good just starting out resources, because it's a lot. There's a lot that goes with the system. It's not like the 2d6 systems where you can just pick a character sheet and within 2 minutes you have your character good to go. There's a lot to consider in D&D.
There is a lot. What was your first character in this game?
She was a barbarian.
Barbarian.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
So I had to do 2 things. I had to rage and I had to hit things.
Yes.
And then I just had to keep hitting things. And so the other players, luckily I was playing with a lot of veteran players.
Yeah.
So they just said, just here, you do this, and the rest the rest we'll take care of. So thank goodness for them.
Yeah.
Barbarian seems like a good first character to go for, doesn't it? Like that. It is just that, you just stand up front and you hit things.
Yeah, basically it's a good if you want someone to just like pick up a sheet and play. after that, my second character that I created on my own was a wizard. And in hindsight, I wouldn't have done that because that's a lot to keep track of.
Yeah.
But luckily, that was for a campaign, so I got used to that as time went on. But yeah, barbarians are great for a first character.
Yeah. Oh, no, they are. That they are. Barbarians are good for just giving someone a sheet and being like, "Oh, here, all you need to do is hit things with an axe every turn. No need to worry about spells. Well, you just want to run in and hit things. So easy. So, did you? I mean, how much D&D do you play off screen?
I am
since 2019.
At my peak.
Wait, to take out the big, like, you know, catalog of games.
Yeah.
At my peak, I was in a TTRPG nearly every single day during the pandemic.
Yeah.
I think I had 5 to 6 weekly games at one point. Now I'm currently sitting at I have a Wednesday home game, I have a Friday game, I have a Saturday game, and I have 2 Sundays. So I'm back up at 5.
Yeah. So you didn't. It wasn't like a slow build. Oh, this is quite cool. I might play it again. It was this is my thing. My life is now this.
Pretty much. I mean, I really got into the actual play scene during the pandemic just because I had nothing else to do. And when you're stuck at home for all day, every day, like, what else am I going to do? There's only so much laundry I can do. There's only so much cleaning I can do. Yeah. I still had plenty of time every single day to do all the chores and the house stuff. So it was just, that's how I passed the time. And now it's my job.
Yeah, I don't know how any of us would have survived during, you know, if the pandemic had hit during the kind of late 80s or the 90s, because having having Zoom and D&D to play was just a literal lifesaver for some people, I think.
Absolutely.
You know,
sounds like the 3 of us had like that sort of similar lockdown where we just all spent every minute playing D&D.
So do you ever get to play D&D in person, like with your partner? Because Robin and I, like, we've started just doing our campaign stream now, but we played a lot of D&D just the 2 of us, especially during the pandemic. We couldn't go out. We would just have those games just one-on-one. Do you get to play with family members or anything?
My parents are interested. They just haven't had the time. We have new littles in our family, extended family, not mine.
Yes.
Extended family.
You can
so
give those ones back.
They're living the grandparent life right now. But they're interested in trying it.
Oh yeah.
And as far as Jake, he tried it once. And it was a lot.
It was
which
a lot.
I get. The tone there was great.
So he's not really interested in it. I think I just need to set him up with a simpler system than D&D. I think he'd really like Monster of the Week. Or like a Kids on Bikes game. But when it was really overwhelming for him. But he's tried it. Yeah.
That's the thing. A lot of, like, if I'm introducing new players, I'd literally just go, right, here's some pre-gens, and I'm like, just all you need to do is just look at the race and the class, and whatever looks coolest, just pick that, and then we'll go with a story, you know. We played with, like, my sister and her partner, and my sister just went, oh, she just picked the word Dragonborn up. What's a Dragonborn? I showed her a picture. She's like, I'll be one of them. And they were pretty much like, they just had such a blast, and it was so magical. I was just like, don't worry about all the numbers, because that's what I struggle with. I know that's what Robin, I know that's what you struggled with when someone went, oh, you need to create your character. And you're like, I do not know what.
Oh yeah, like I was like, oh yeah, I get to make a character and pick what they look like and what they sound like, and then it just became a numbers game, and I was like, oh no, I just want to be an elf and run around the forest. Really, how do I roll that?
Yeah, I think folks are really spoiled today, especially with things like D&D Beyond. I've never made a character pen and paper.
No,
I do it all in D&D Beyond. That's how I've always done it, because I've always played with people who had access to it. So, like, that's where the majority of their content was.
Yeah.
I have no idea how to do the math.
Like, yeah, I mean,
Fine.
yeah, D&D Beyond makes sure that you don't miss anything out, and it doesn't.
Yeah.
My first 5e character was a wizard as well, and I took, because sometimes it was long periods of time before we play, so I would read the book, we'd level up, and then it'd be months, and then we played D&D again, and you crack on, and then after 4 or 5 sessions, you go back to look at a rule, and you're like, oh, I was supposed to be taking another spell at every level. So, and you don't realize. The cleric in our campaign, that first campaign, was the same. Like, he didn't realize that he could use the entire cleric spell list, not just the domain spells. So we had a deaf domain cleric that couldn't heal.
We got several games in before this was actually realized. It was
like 7 or 8
like,
sessions.
oh my gosh, we keep dying.
Yeah, because we didn't, none of us knew 5e that well, and it was it was just the fact that you just missed it off the sheet, and you just didn't understand that, oh, that was what you could do, was prepare spells. It was just like you just saw the thing and it says, oh, these are your cleric spells.
I do I do agree with you though. I mean, we are spoiled with D&D Beyond now, because the other weekend we ended up playing a quick one shot in person, and I couldn't get any internet on my phone. So I was like, oh, cool, I'll just do the paper sheet. It'll be fine. That's hard. Like, that is actually hard without a little thing being like, click these buttons. Okay. And I was like, no, I need to actually add all these up in my head and figure out what all my scores are. And I was like, whatever, I've forgotten something here. I know I have.
But they were, those sheets that we had, Robin, they were like the basic sheets without the proficiency lists on or anything. It didn't. There's no skills, so it was just.
I'm trying to remember all the skills.
So you were like, oh, I need to choose proficiencies. What are the proficiencies again?
I was like, what were there all the charisma ones? I think there's more than 5, is there? And I couldn't remember them all.
So Sarah, your Twitch streams, am I right in saying you donate percentage of the Twitch subs to charity? Is that right?
I donate my full Twitch income to charity.
Full Twitch income. That's amazing.
Wow.
That's
That's really amazing.
Yeah. What charities does it go to? Just one charity or several?
It started out going to a different charity every month, but then I really fell in love with the Trevor Project. Being a member of the Alphabet Mafia myself, they do a lot of really important work supporting the community, especially the youth in the community. So I really wanted to make sure that my money was going there, and because the resources that they have now, I wish I would have had those 30 years ago. So it's one of those things where I didn't have it, so I want to make sure other people do. And everything goes there. Everything gets posted to my Discord every time I receive a payout, and then I go make the donation. I post the receipts there, so it's fully transparent. And I'm very blessed that people decide to just leave their subscriptions on month after month, and I still get to do this. But it's not something that I've ever sought out to get people to sub to my channel, because go buy yourself a latte, like go get your nails done, like do something for you. Don't give your money to me because I'm sitting here playing a game that I'd be sitting here playing anyways without that $4.99.
Exactly. Yeah. Don't this is the thing, and maybe you're the same as us, but it's when we're streaming and doing stuff and playing games, it's stuff that we'd be doing anyway, and if people want to come and hang out and get some value from it, then that's great, but people don't.
I'll take my money from corporations. I don't need it from my viewers.
No, exactly. So, but one of the other things that you really kind of, probably blew up for you was your TikTok, right? When did you start? When did you start playing on TikTok?
TikTok was during the pandemic, and it was when Amazon was getting a whole lot of my money because I couldn't go to the stores. Yeah. But I was sitting there playing these games every day, and I think the first one was for the game that Robin and I were in, where I was playing an elf, and I saw this wig, and I was like, "That's Delilah. I'm gonna get that, and I'm gonna make her wig, and I'll wear it for games." So it started out with just me wanting to basically wear the hair of my characters. Nice. During games, because I was also at that point I was kind of struggling to remember who I was on what day.
I remember you said that before. You were like, oh, I need to put a wig on so I know who I'm actually going to play today. Otherwise, I'll end up dipping into the wrong character. And I was like, that's amazing.
Yeah. It was a struggle for a while. I hadn't flexed that improv acting muscle that hard in a very long time. So it started out with the wig, and then I started getting these recommendations for more like fantasy style outfits and stuff.
Yeah.
So I just sat there in a wig and a shirt for the longest time. Then I started doing my makeup. Then I ordered a set of ears, and then I ordered a blouse and a like a corset style top. And now I have for nearly every single character I play, I have a head to toe outfit.
Oh, wow.
That I cosplay them in. And the TikTok, it kind of just started blowing up by accident, because as I built up these characters is when TikTok was first really hitting.
Yeah.
And people were doing all of these funny lip syncs, and I was like, oh my gosh, how fun would that be to do
If
as a
it was
character?
Delilah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can imagine.
And
Delilah
it's
saying that.
Delilah. Delilah is still, I get people, I don't play her as much anymore. I only pull her out for one shots, so I'll maybe like every like 4 or 5 months pull her costume out because I'm in a one shot. But I still have people asking like, hey, is Delilah coming back?
When's Delilah coming back?
How's Delilah?
No, I still like my longtime followers. They recognize her, and every single time I pull her out, there's like this big massive influx of people that are just like, oh, this character's funny, because she's a hoot and a half.
She certainly is.
I mean, it's just another layer on that creative process of the TTRPG character is the obviously the performance side of it on TikTok, but also the cosplay. So the cosplay, it was for the games then. It wasn't for specifically for I'm going to.
Yeah, it was just for fun.
Yeah, and you start. So were you into cosplay before D&D streaming?
I had always wanted to do it, but I never saw a reason to create things that already existed. Like turning yourself into a character and being screen accurate is its own art form, and I think it's beautiful, but it didn't spark any joy in me. It didn't say, oh, I need to go do that. Even though I have done it with a couple characters from major media. I've gone and done that for Halloween and stuff, but it's not something that I'm just like, oh, I'm really identifying with this character. And there's just something that was really magical when I started doing it for my D&D characters, because that's your baby. That's something that was born in your head, in your own imagination. Yeah,
and now you're creating them. I guess that's why people love getting art done of their characters as well. It's a very it's a very personal thing, because a lot of people can look at a piece of art of a D&D crew and go, oh, that's a nice piece of art, but they have no idea who they are. But it's more special to the people that get the work done, because they've seen that come to life.
Yeah, it's incredibly special. And like and now I'm at the point where like every once in a while someone joins my Discord server and be like, hey, so I drew some of your characters, like, can you is that okay if I post them here? Like I made some even my friends like have made fan art of my characters at this point when they really like them. So that takes it from like the joy of cosplaying and ordering art to like a whole new level. And like it blew my mind the first time it happened, and it blows my mind every single time someone does that for me. I actually have, I don't have any in here, I don't think. Oh yeah, I do. I can show you guys. For listeners at home, I'm currently showing a photo of fan art that someone made of my entire
it's your roster.
Oh yes, I remember this. It is beautiful.
That's a whole roster. I
just love amazing. That you're in the middle.
Yes. This was made by one of my wonderful followers, and I absolutely adore it. And it's a piece I have a second copy because this one didn't print right. But I have a copy of it on my fridge as well, because I was like, that's fridge level artwork. Like that's
the fridge. Makes the fridge.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and I've been so lucky to be gifted stuff like that by people that they never said anything to me ever again. And well, not that person. That person is pretty cool. They're in my server still, but like they'll just like drop it and be like, "Hey, I made this for you. Okay, bye."
Bye.
Don't stay.
Yeah, it's special, isn't it, when you think that someone has spent their own, has enjoyed consuming your content and then gone off and used their talent and enjoyed drawing artwork of something that you put out there, and you've you've given them value, and then they've compounded that, and then they've given it back to you. It's quite a magical thing.
It's so strange to I don't know how actors and actresses do it, because it's so strange to have someone tell you that you're their comfort character, and I'm just like, I'm a goober with an iPhone, but thank you.
I'm just a person. I mean,
some of my characters are in other people's D&D games. Apparently, I have had DMs reach out and be like, "Hey, Lowry Moon is super cool. She inspired this character in my campaign," and I'm just like, thanks.
That's amazing.
That is the goal. That is the goal. Because don't get me wrong, I've definitely been in campaigns where someone's playing a character. I'm like, I recognize that character from such and such a stream, which it's great. It's great. But that's the good thing about like D&D, even though people have all these different worlds, it's and they have their own storylines and they have their own characters, you feel like you're all playing one game. That's even though you don't have to have things like beholders in your game, right? But if because we fight against beholders, we'll be like, oh yeah, have you fought a beholder? We're playing the same game. It's a completely make-believe game. So when people create these characters that are character archetypes, I'm going to be playing the Grog from Critical Role, just the big Goliath barbarian that's going to act a certain way. I think it's incredible.
Absolutely.
So the wigs, right? The wigs is where it started with the cosplay, right?
Yep. That's where it started.
Because your wig game is getting to like god tier-ness,
it's, I do all right.
yeah. To the point where
come on, Delilah's wig is like the
Delilah's wig has gotten better.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Was every single time you say that and you're like, oh, I've updated it now, and I'm like, it was already perfect. Oh wow, it's like even
Delilah's wig is actually 2 wigs now.
Yeah.
Because the first wig got, after you wear a synthetic wig for like 2 years, like week in, week out, it gets a little ratty. So
yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, the first one got retired, so now she has a new base wig, but I turned the old wig into the bun that's on top of her head.
Yeah.
So she's got a lot of hair now.
Yeah.
How did you attach? Because I remember you were talking about before about trying to attach this bun onto her. How did you end up doing it in the end?
So there's actually a video of how I ended up creating the final wig. But basically what I did is I took the tracks off of the old wig that were all matted anyways, and I sewed the tracks into like a little puck of tracks. Like it looks like this little disc of tracks because they're all just sewn around and around and around and around.
Yes.
And I attached a hair clip to that, one of the flat bendy plastic wig clips. I don't know. I went to beauty school. I don't know what the technical term for it is. It's a bendy plasticky thingy.
Plastic thing, yeah.
It's like a hair clip. Got it.
So I take like a tiny section and make a ponytail at the very top, and then the hair that's anchored before the band is where I clip it in, and then I just wrap the hair around until it's in a bun and bobby pin it in place. So it's much more travel friendly now, which I like.
So it's handy that if you went to school for that type of thing, it's that's the kind of, you're using your strength for becoming these characters, like transforming yourself into your characters.
Totally.
Yeah, which is funny how the hobby can have, like the TTRPG hobby can have so many of these avenues that people lean into. You have people that are super into it and they have a knack for creative writing, and they're like, oh, I'm going to create I'm going to be into world building, I'm going to make campaigns, and people who are into game mechanics, and they're like, oh, I'm going to make homebrew rules. You've got people who are into things like content creation and cosplay and comedy, and there's all these branches off just this one hobby, painting miniatures, So
Painting minis is amazing.
Yeah,
I don't know how people do it. If you're a mini painter, I am your biggest fan. You are so cool. Just want everyone to know that.
I tell you what, well, we discussed this the other day, Robin, didn't I? Like I do actually have a little bit of a knack for doing it.
Really?
Yeah, a little bit of a knack. That's underselling it by a lot.
So I barely do it, and then I will, because like I'll paint all our props and all that, like if it's for LARP or cosplay, and I'll paint our minis, and like I barely ever do it. I'll paint like one mini in like a year, and people will be like, "Oh, that's like that's incredible." I'm just like, yeah, it's just, and I'm like giving people tips, and I'm just like, I don't know how to do this, but I'm like, yeah, you just, obviously it's like, well, that's a darker shade. I'm like, you need to start with dark to light. I've never been taught that. I just have a knack for doing it. And I said to Robin, I was like, that's probably really something I should start doing more.
Yeah. Some of my favorite streams to watch are mini painters.
Yeah.
I don't understand how they take it from a little lump of plastic into something that is just absolutely gorgeous and intricately detailed. I cannot do that, but I will gladly sit and watch for a few hours.
Yeah, well, yeah, I've thought about doing like streaming that type of stuff. It's usually just a laziness thing for me. It's usually like, I've got to go get the paints out.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah,
it's a lot of, when you have to change your streaming setup. I don't know if folks know this, but by the time you're done changing the setup, you don't want to stream anymore.
Yeah.
That's enough work for today.
Yep.
That is the trap you get into, isn't it? Because you're like, oh, we could really do with upgrading this or upgrading that. I want to start doing that, but it's just so much easier just to sit down, turn everything on, and just stream the game that you usually stream, and not change it up.
Yeah, we did 2 Lego streams where Jake and I were both sitting here at my desk on camera, and I had 2 camera angles, but it took about an hour and a half of setup for me to get everything set up so that we could comfortably fit in this room together. Yeah. And then be on mic, and like all of my like settings in the computer have to change, because this has to go from being a dynamic mic that's just picking up me to being able to pick up 2 people.
Yes.
And it's still not the best experience. But yeah, yes. I after doing the first one, the second time around, I had to set it all up the night before, because there was no way that I was going to do anything after setup, after experiencing it once.
Yeah, because we've talked, because like we live in the same house, but we stream in different rooms, and
yeah, so do we.
But it was always my plan to be like, oh, we'll do an in-person game because we live in the same house. But every time I think about it, I'm like, right, we're going to have to get a table and then we're going to have to take both PCs probably into the same room. And because I stream basically, was watch this is mostly our living space as well in here. So I was like, if we have both of us in here, then we're going to have like a whole setup, and we'll live around it, and
you have to make sure the room's clean.
Yeah, well,
because suddenly you have a wider angle, so everything behind you has to be wiped down, organized, put away, because that's your backdrop.
Yeah, so it's it's just like some content creators, most of us content creators are at a stage in our careers where we don't have studios, and that's obviously that would obviously be the dream, is just to have it and then leave it, go home, and then go to the studio where it's all set up. You can just leave it, go have your food.
We'll all get there one day.
Yes, yeah. Oh, I'm confident. I'm confident you will.
Or we have setups where we've got everything like perfect from one side, but the other side is just all wires everywhere, and you're just like hoping that the dog doesn't decide to go under the desk and just take all the wires with them.
Why do you have to talk about what my room is like off camera? That was a really rude call out. Next time, just name my room being what you're talking about.
Yeah, I feel like it's a total flex when people take a photo of their stream setups, and they take a photo of everything behind their monitor, and I'm like, that's
the setup does not look like that day to day. I refuse to believe it. No, the pristine. My setup looks pristine once, and that's when I take a photo of it.
Yeah. It's just, that's, I mean, this is the thing when you, how do you find it? Because it's becoming more of a job for you now, and having to think about making content when it comes to your actual hobby. Do you ever feel any kind of burnout, anything like that, especially if you're playing a lot of games and then everything is content with the games?
Yeah, there was a period of time where I didn't really have any vacation time set aside for myself. And I was very much in the mindset of, I have to put out weekly. I have to put out 3 times a day on TikTok, 3 times a day on Instagram. I have to upload a video weekly. I have to do a constant stream schedule. But what I ended up learning is, when I did feel burnout, I was honest with my followers across all platforms.
Yeah.
And they all said, go take a vacation, you idiot.
Yeah.
Break. Yeah.
So I did. And after that, when I came back, I was very honest about, like, I know y'all have been used to seeing me like nearly every single day on some platform or another, but it's not going to be that way anymore, because that's not sustainable for me. That's not how my brain works. And I do this all by myself. I do all the editing by myself. I do all the photographs, all of the TikToks, like this. It's just me.
Yeah.
So
it's
I do as much as I can in a day, and that's it.
Yeah. It's daunting, and that's the thing. You start out doing stuff yourself, because we've talked to people that stream D&D, and they're like, oh yeah, we have a sound technician, we have a camera technician, we have a manager. I'm like, what? Just like we just do it all ourselves, you know? It's a lot.
It's a lot, and I don't think people realize, especially when it comes to streaming actual plays, I don't think people realize how much cost is actually in it to put off something with some production value.
Yes.
Yeah. Because and I don't mind talking about my financials. For me to put on an actual play with 4 players and a DM, and everybody being okay with all of the money that comes in going to charity, it's still running me about $400 to $600 in art assets to put that production on. Plus, and that doesn't include the cost of everything that's going into running the game, like our Zoom costs, our closed captioning costs, or any of my time as a producer.
Ultimately your time. Yeah, exactly. Your wage.
Ellie Collins actually put out a really great tweet a little while back. She's the storyteller on Atlanta by Night, ATL by Night.
Okay. Oh yeah.
Pretty big production. They have they are in Atlanta. They have a studio. And even with getting their studio costs at a discount, because I believe in the thread that she says that the studio is technically owned by friends. But you still have to pay your friends.
Yes.
I think the production cost for that is, she quoted it at around $30,000 out of pocket for all of the years that they've been doing it.
Yeah.
And what does come in goes right back into production, because it's expensive.
Yeah. And that's the thing. And a lot of people are kind of, chasing, especially the actual players, obviously chasing the dragon that's well ahead, like crit roll and all that. They're just so, and it's all catch up, because a lot of it is just the timing of things. You know how you said you got onto TikTok when and you caught that wave as it was coming in, and then you get a load of content creators that are just a few steps behind, that are trying to catch up, and it's tough for them, because then the market becomes just flooded, and the people on the leading edge, and you've got to work. People don't understand. You have to work hard, like I know you do. I see your TikToks, and I'm like, that's how TikTok works. You got to be on. For anyone
who wants to get into content creation and do all of the social medias and YouTube and Twitch, I work a 60-hour work week.
Yeah,
every single week.
Yeah,
and if I take vacation time, I'm not getting paid.
No, exactly. No, I'm constantly to Robin, I'm like, still God, Sarah's working hard, but that's what you got to do to be on the edge, because people just see a 30-second TikTok video and they're like, oh yeah, cool, funny TikTok video, and you're just like, like the way people literally have marketing teams creating, 10 to 20 TikToks a day for their brand, just paying someone just to do TikTok.
People there is a job called social media manager, and it's people's jobs to post for someone else on their own accounts. Which occasionally I have had to employ a friend as a social media manager when I mentally couldn't handle it. And that was right before I took my first break, where I was on the verge of a breakdown trying to keep all of this up by myself.
I remember you saying at this time, and I remember you like, it seems, I'm sure it seems obvious now looking back, but I do remember you being like, oh, should I take a break? And it's like, yes. and you were worried about taking a break from this, and it was just like, it was rough. But I mean, I really wish the more that TTRPGs as actual plays grow as a medium, because this industry is still in its infancy.
Yes.
A lot of us who have been playing the game for a while were really desensitized to actual plays and TTRPGs, and a new one coming out this year. Like, our industry is really, it's still very, very niche. There's still, it seems bigger because of things like Stranger Things.
Yeah.
Yes. But for the most part, like, this is a whole new avenue, and we are all paving the way.
Yeah.
So
because it's relative, isn't it? Because it's grown as we've been in it, so it feels like you're going, oh, there's so much of it now. It's mainstream. It's not mainstream yet. It's
think about 10 years ago. Did you know what Twitch was? Did you know that Twitch would be a thing?
No.
How old is Twitch? Isn't it only like 5 years old or something?
Yeah. And that's the thing.
But
by
that's
the time,
scary.
that's what I mean by people being just a few steps behind. Because as soon as people realize, oh, TikTok is this thing, it's going to be moving on to the next thing, and then the next thing.
That's the one thing about content creation, is that there's always a next thing that's coming up, and you have to be ready to hit the ground running. But I really want to see, as this industry grows, I really want to see more content creators in this space creating content around what it actually takes to join this space.
Yes.
Because it's a lot and people don't realize it.
No, it's and I think, it can only get better, because we were talking to someone at the weekend, actually, who is a big part of like TTRPG content creation, and they've been doing it a while, and they've said, like, we see like waves coming in, like you said, you mentioned Stranger Things, like the new series of Stranger Things that was very heavily like, that's really going to influence kids at school, because it was featured a D&D club, at school, and you see the spikes in the content consumption with that, and then with the like the D&D film trailer coming out, and there's a big spike again.
That's going to be massive.
Yeah, and it will just,
especially if it does well.
And it's quite funny being in like us doing the LARPing as well, because there's obviously a big crossover between TTRPGs, LARP, both role-playing games. There seems to be the wave kind of just goes over into those types of things like cosplay, D&D, all this pop culture stuff. It all just goes, oh, it's more acceptable now for me. My kids are into it, and then those kids become adults, and then they bring their kids up into it, and it's just more accepted, and it becomes less and less niche. Which is great if you're a content creator, because it just means more. You've just got more reach.
Absolutely.
Which is an awesome thing, 100%. So yeah, where have you ever considered getting into LARP, Sarah?
I really want to, but with the pandemic, I can't. I have chronic lung issues, so it's very, very risky for me. I am a caregiver for an elderly woman in my family, so there's a transmission risk. My father-in-law is immune compromised as well.
Yeah, you got to be careful.
Yeah, unfortunately, until we figure out whatever's going on with this virus, I'm essentially I'm still living the quarantine life. I don't think a lot of people realize it. But I'm one of those people that still, this little room is my whole world.
Well, which is great that you can play so much D&D online, because you do have a few people that like to like gatekeep D&D into this, like, oh yeah, you know, you want to play in person, that's the only way to play D&D, and oh, you know, I've been playing D&D in person, you know, it's not the same. And it's like, I don't know, I'll be honest, I like both. To be honest, I like being able to do both. I've spoken to people that have only played online, I've spoken to people that only played in person. And I think people who've only played in person that go, oh yeah, what's it? No, I don't know if I could play online. It's not really what I do. And I'm just like, I think you're missing out, because
yeah,
you know, hey, we get to meet people like you know,
right?
But,
it's
yeah.
The great thing about D&D online, which in person is great. I did get to DM and play in my first game in person when I was on vacation. Because it was just me and my friends. And we basically went to Florida to quarantine together for a couple weeks.
Nice.
But yeah, I love both. I really did enjoy playing in person. Yeah. I personally was much less distracted in person. Yeah. But if I didn't play online, I wouldn't know you two.
Yeah.
I wouldn't.
Exactly.
I wouldn't know pretty much any of the people who have become my closest friends.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I think it can be scary for sure, but with a little bit of vetting, you can have a whole lot of fun getting involved in online communities.
Yeah, I mean, there's some, you know, like any community, there's people you want to avoid, but it widens the net, and I think that's a difficult thing for people who are wanting to get into the hobby, and that they don't quite realize that there are avenues you can go down to make sure that you find the game that's right for you, because some people will try it and they either quit because they've had a terrible experience, or they just put up with the shit experience, you know, and they let it continue, you know, and they think, oh, this is just D&D, and you're like, it doesn't have to be D&D. You know. I think it's the same in like we've noticed with like LARPing. I mean, the good thing about it is, I'll give you that LARPing is like the antithesis of you know, a lockdown, because it's lots of people in close contact. I think that's why it's had this big boom, and like why we, you know, as we got into it as well, is because everyone was just craving that, because everyone had been locked in for so long. Everyone was craving that, oh, let's go out to it, because it's pretty much a festival. But the community is so large that you can actually branch out and go, okay, I'm going to find the people that I actually want to spend time with.
Exactly.
Which is the good thing. Totally. It's a good thing with online as well. Also, a little bit easier, because if you have a close, you know, if you have a friend group that you meet in person, and then I think I can imagine it being more awkward to say to that group, this isn't working out for me, and then walking away and like, no, I have to search around town for another group.
I've walked away from a lot of tables at this point in my few years that I've been doing this. It's always an awkward conversation, but the people who care about you will understand. There was just a question over in my friend's Discord server. Someone was talking about how they're at a 6-person table, and they realized when a couple players were sick and they played with a smaller group, they weren't really getting it. They were like, oh, this game isn't for me. But when it was a smaller group, they really, really enjoyed it. And so now and so they were asking for advice on like, I want to leave this table, but I don't know if I should just stick it through and like tell the DM later. And the advice is almost always unanimously, DMs want to know when you're not having fun. If a table is not for you, that's okay. There will be other tables. There might be a game that they're getting ready to run on another day that just needs a 4th player, and then they're ready to go. So yeah, it can be really awkward, but normalizing feedback after sessions, which is something I've done on my own channel after learning how to do it well.
Yeah, so tell us a bit more about that, because my first experience with this was when I played in one of your games. So
oh, really?
Talk us through what you do after your games.
Okay, so basically we do, after every session, we do a bit of aftercare. And I know we most often hear that in regards to like the kink community, but it's also important. Robin's laughing at me. But
it's actually comes in my mind, and I'm just like, I'm not going to say it. Oh, she said it. Never mind.
She said kink.
It's okay, Sarah. You're on our podcast. It's fine.
That kind of podcast.
But It's actually a communication technique, and it's something that is rooted in therapy techniques for couples, and has absolutely nothing to do with the kink community. I've actually discussed what I do on my channel with my therapist, and he confirmed, like, yeah, these are all techniques that I went to college to learn.
Yeah.
So basically what we do after each game is, first we all break to use the restroom, get some water, grab a snack, and then we come back for probably between 15 and 30 minutes, depending on what the table needs that day. And then we go around and we do what's called our stars and wishes. And stars are what you enjoyed about the day. You can have just a general session star. You could have a star for every single person. You could have a star for the group and for like one person. It's fine. It's whatever you want, no pressure. But you do need to think of something that you did enjoy, because if you're sitting there for 3 hours and there's absolutely nothing you enjoy, that's a flag that something's not right with the table. Yeah. And then everyone goes around and does that, and then afterwards, the next thing that comes is wishes. And you can either say it right after your star, or everyone can do their stars and then everyone can do their wishes. However you want to run it. It's your table. Do what you want. Yeah. But everyone gives a wish as well, and it's something that they would like to see in future games. And so it's a normalization of feedback, because a lot of people aren't raised with good communication skills, and that's not a dig at anyone. Like, we're all different, but a lot of people don't learn good communication skills, and a lot of people don't learn how to give feedback.
Yeah.
So yeah. So what's the one thing as a DM you always want to know is, how am I doing? What do my players want to see? Yeah. So you just normalize it, and trust builds at the table. Initially it's really surface level. But as everyone gets more comfortable with one another, the conversations always end up, in my experience, getting deeper and deeper the more time goes on with stars and wishes in a table, to the point where you do get comfortable saying immediately after a game to the group, hey, there was this one interaction, it made me really uncomfortable. Could we adjust lines or boundaries or whatever? And sometimes you know exactly what bothered you. Sometimes you have no idea what bothered you about that situation. You need time to think about it. But it gives an actionable tool that the table can use to make sure everyone's being safe and having fun. And I'm sure someone listening probably had the knee-jerk reaction as soon as I said being safe. It's not a kink thing. Safety for someone. My favorite example of using this is someone realizing that they're struggling with hunger feelings during games. So we're all playing online now for the most part. People are playing across time zones at weird times. Your food schedule is getting disrupted. You might realize that, I need to set a line about food descriptions in game, because 2 hours in, we went to a feast. We still have an hour of game time left, but now all I can think about is what I'm going to go eat, and it's taking me out of the game and taking me out of my fun. Yeah. So
I'm like that with taverns every time we go to a tavern.
Right? So it's one of those things that it kind of normalizes asking for that, because a lot of people will not ask for that and just be miserable because they don't want to make the friend who's DMing the game or anyone at the table uncomfortable, upset. They don't want to step on any toes. And let me tell you, if you got good friends, they're not going to care. They'll make the adjustment. And it's just one of those things that it's been such a joy, and it's not a time to demand anything when you're giving your wishes. It could also be something as simple as, hey, Robin, you and I had a conversation, but I want to circle back to that because I had some more thoughts and I'd like for our characters to discuss it. So can we make like 10 minutes in the next session to circle back to that?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So it could be a whole lot of things. But it's a really great way to get people comfortable with asking for what they need and helping them identify what they need, because they might not know what they need.
Yeah. Well, I can imagine, because I've imagined since experiencing that, and because Robin and I do it with each other, it's a little bit sometimes we draw. Sometimes we forget to do it because we literally live with each other, and it's usually just like, oh, go get dinner, go walk the dog, and then like, oh, actually, yeah, we should probably do stars and wishes. But I had been thinking about, how would it go with a brand new table of people, especially if some have been playing before. I can imagine it at first being very like, ooh, I don't know, but the important thing is that it, like you say, it normalizes that feedback given, and it's not pros and cons, it's stars and wishes. So it's not, oh, what did you not like, it's what would you like to see more of,
it's not anything that's made to make people feel uncomfortable. It's not a time to call out like bad behavior. Although you can take that time to say like, hey, this interaction made me feel uncomfortable in some way, but it's not a time to finger point like that meme with the lady and the cat. Like it's not that kind of a time. But it normalizes feedback. Yeah. And I've had some people say that they were scared it was going to be a time for call out. I have that at a table I recently joined. Yeah. And so I just took extra time to explain, no, that's not what it's for. Like, here's what we do during this time. And we're on session 3 with that table. Yeah. And we're already getting better feedback and getting more comfortable talking to one another. And honestly, it even makes the role play better, because then you know what people are looking for, and you get more comfortable with that as well. Yeah. But
it's like positive reinforcement, isn't it? Yeah. You just like, so even if someone, they don't think much about, oh, I'm going to have, if it's a low role play table, oh, I'm going to role play with this cat, and this character role plays with your character. And you're like, no, I actually like that. They maybe didn't think, oh, I'm going to do this because the other person likes doing it. Yeah. I'm just going to give this a try. If at the end they're like, hey, I really liked us like talking by the campfire for 10 minutes. They then go, oh, they did like it. So, they don't go away from the table being like, oh, I think I maybe talked too much. I think I maybe like everyone was bored at the table when I was speaking. You don't know,
That's something I struggle with a lot, because when I'm hosting actual plays, I'm playing in all the games that are on my channel, and it's my channel. There's a lot of people coming there to see me. And there's a lot of people that come there because they want to see me for the first time from other avenues. And so it's one of those things where I have a lot of conversations, especially with the Nexus Adventures table, because Lucy's been on TikTok and Instagram the longest. Yeah. And people do come to see her because they get curious. Yeah. And that's one of the things that I'm always very conscientious of when we get into like heavy role play and stuff. And there was one part where we were heading down a story arc that was very focused on her. And I didn't want them to think that I had like main character syndrome. Yeah. Or anything like that. Because a lot of players who have been playing for a long time, you've been at the tables where someone develops main character syndrome and they hog the time. Like it's a common occurrence. That's why we have a name for it. Yeah. But but safety tools, or calibration tools as I like to call them, with normalizing feedback at the end of the session, like I'm able to do check-ins, and I have a lot of trust with this table. And if they want to see something, they'll tell me. If they want me to back off, they'll tell me. Yeah. But during that particular one, they were like, no, we want Lucy front and center. We want to experience her going through this. We want to support this story. We want to know what happens in her story. And I think they wanted to know more than I did. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the things with trust. I mean, it's a weird one really, because I mean, you have like groups of friends and things, and you trust them a lot. But I think some people kind of see trust as a thing, you either trust someone or you don't, but really you can trust as something that can become deeper and has different levels to it. And if you're doing the stars and stripes, it creates this sort of thing within game as well, where you're able to notice when someone is uncomfortable in the game in the middle of a role play, because you've been working on this, you've gotten to know them so well, and you've taken the time to develop this game around what people are and are not comfortable with. And
absolutely,
it's a shame that so many people are not so keen on it, but your games are the first ones that I experienced stars and wishes with as well. And it's an amazing system.
I'm glad you liked it. It's not my system. I learned it from another channel who learned it from another channel who learned it from another channel. I don't know where it originated. So if anyone does know that's listening to this, if you want to at me on Twitter, I would love to know so I can thank that person, because it's I cannot sing the praises of the calibration tools that I've learned enough, because I've had people who are industry professionals that have been in this scene far longer than I have coming to my channel and asking to like run games on my channel, saying, you run one of the most comfortable and professional spaces that I've ever been in. And I'm like,
you do.
And I'm just like, are you?
It's
like, I know where these people have played on the internet, and I'm just like, what?
No,
what's everyone else doing then?
I do want to pick up on that. I do like that term calibration as well, because it's a slow. So you're that's what you're doing. You're tweaking things. So first session comes along, it's like, oh, it's combat heavy, and you go, oh, and half your players go, oh, I kind of wish there was a little bit more role play, and then the storyteller takes that on board, and then the next time maybe the storyteller is like, oh yeah, I kind of I really liked it when you guys were focused on the task and you did this, and you're constantly tweaking, because the opposite of that is you don't want safety tools to repair something. It's better to see it as a calibration rather than
absolutely
right, this game has devolved into something that we all hate and we're not having a good time. And that point you're trying to fix something, which is very difficult.
Yeah, it's easier to and we did peek behind the curtain. We did have a little bit of a talk about this, because I have been talking about preparing to release a YouTube video about this. Who knows if that'll come out. I'm working on editing it. It might just sit in my drafts for a very long time. I don't know if the world's ready for it. But one of the things that I've noticed, and as I've watched more panels and done more research and read more on it, is that there's this knee-jerk reaction when you hear the term safety tools.
Yes.
Well, I've known Robin and Ollie for years. I'm comfortable with them. I've known my Thursday D&D group for years. We've been playing together for 20 years. Like, what do I need to do to feel safer with them? Those are my best friends. Well, it's not about feeling safe. It's not about and the other comment that I get a lot on Instagram is, well, my game's SFW. Like, I don't need to worry about that. It's not about whether it's SFW, NSFW, how long you've known people. It's about giving people the option to opt in to what you as a DM want to do and what they want to do as players. Because think about going back to talking about the tavern and talking about food.
Yeah.
What if you don't realize that the person you've been playing with for a while now is struggling with substance abuse or alcohol abuse? They might not want to be in taverns in game, but it's okay for that to exist in the world still. They just would prefer the party isn't in the tavern every other session doing a drinking game, because it's difficult for them.
Yes.
And some people and that's totally valid.
Yeah.
And I can't think of a single person who would say, no, you're going to have to sit through this if you're in my game in that sort of situation. But you don't know unless you give players a way to safely and comfortably express those needs to you. And then, sure, taverns are in the world, but we prefer to just hang out around a campfire.
Yeah.
It's because it's such a unique and intimate shared experience. Because even with when we go LARPing, there's loads of people there. Yes, it's role play, but there is a company that has organized that, and they have a set of guidelines that then obviously the players will add on top of, and they go, look, I'm not comfortable with this, but they always have that authority to be like, look, this player is breaking the rules of the game and the event. When it comes to D&D, it's like the storyteller is facilitating the game, and they kind of do have a seat of like authority, but they're as much of a player, they are someone that requires these tools as well. So you're going into this contract with everybody that there isn't actually a written rules there. There's the rules of the game, you know, whatever you're playing, 5th edition, D&D or whatever, there's those rules, but there isn't really a rules of conduct that you would do if you went to play any other game.
Yeah, it's a really unique entertainment medium, because all of our other entertainment mediums, whether people realize it or not, they're opting in to what they want out of those mediums. Yes. I don't like horror movies, so if something is labeled a horror movie, I'm not going to watch it.
Yeah.
And there's different levels within the horror genre of people might like suspense, they might like thrillers, but they don't want to sit down and watch Saw. So it's one of those things where we have all of these different avenues to communicate that's just slapped right on the label of our other entertainment media. So we need to get used to taking those steps to provide that in this one as well.
Yeah.
And I would go so far as to say is if you're putting out like actual plays and TTRPGs, the DMs need to be communicating to the producers, like, what content are you about to be engaging in? Because the producer's sitting there listening to it. There's an editor, they need to know what they're in for, and your audience needs to know as well.
Yeah.
We have a content warning that goes with every single TTRPG session on my channel, not just a blanket statement. You can use !CW for any game that's currently airing in the TTRPG space. And my DMs and GMs and storytellers know you have to give me a list of specific triggers. It's not about surprising me. It's not about, you know, keeping things secret from me, because me as the producer, I need to make sure my audience is opting into this as well.
Yes.
Because we're dealing with heavier themes in our D&D campaign at this point, and as a table, we've opted into that. But a viewer tuning in for the first time, they might need to go back a few story arcs to the stuff that isn't quite so dark and check out that stuff first before they check out the darker stuff with us.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing, when you're especially when you exploring these long storylines and the characters develop so much, it's I think it's inevitably gonna move away, especially when, you know, it's adults playing. It's gonna move into those. It's going to move into those realms, isn't it? I mean, I know some tables can just do, you know, 2 years of fart jokes, but like eventually most of the time campaigns will develop, you know, especially if you're role play heavy, they'll develop into more serious stuff, especially from a storyteller's point of view, because you have to go, right, I have to keep these players engaged and their characters engaged. So, you know, the way you make a story is you have characters, you throw conflict in there, you know, and the conflict, if you're changing the conflict up, sometimes the themes, a lot of different themes will pop up, you know, and there's only so many you can throw at people.
And sometimes, you know, the content is getting a little too dark for one character, so you consent to the DM kidnapping them, and then you bring in a comedic character for an entire story arc while your character goes off, has their character development, and then comes back later.
Yes.
You seem to know about that one quite well.
Lucy had to. We had a conversation once for Nexus Adventures, because it was right after the story arc that focused on Lucy, because she grew. Spoilers for anyone who's going to go listen to my campaign.
Okay, stop now. Go listen to all that campaign. And then
go listen to all 100 episodes. Don't do that, please. Don't do that. But it came to a point where the people that she had been running from the entire campaign had caught up with the party and had trapped the party. And I had to have the conversation with the DM of, the party obviously isn't ready for this fight with this particular NPC.
Okay.
He's far too OP. Like, I can tell that as a player. The only thing for Lucy to do in that moment that made sense to me was for her to leave with that NPC to get them away from the party, because there was no other way. That we were at a huge disadvantage. There was no way for us to get out of the literal cages that we were in.
Yeah. So
she had to give her party an out. And so I consented to my DM, like, yes, you can take her away. And we had a conversation after that about how much we wanted to discuss of that time that she's with this organization that she had been running from, what had happened to her, what she was going to be like when we came back. But that was so dark and so intense that we knew it was a part of her story that had to be a part of her story in order for her to move forward with the next part.
Yeah.
But there was no way in hell it was going to happen live on stream, and there was no way that I could put myself through that as a player. So she went away for a while, and while the party went on the rescue mission, we brought in Poppy, who was then this...
I love Poppy.
light... Gosh, she is an amazing damn ferret, let me tell you. But I brought in another... She's this character that I was able to bring in, who's from Lucy's backstory, who knew all the information that Lucy knew that the party would need to move forward in going and rescuing Lucy and stopping this person. But I could come in when everyone else is being all dark and sad, and I could be the comedic relief.
Yes. That's the thing. If the campaign is being fluid like that, and you feel like you need to bring a new feel to it, because that's the thing, that the way the characters behave, I mean, the setting is just one aspect, isn't it? You can because you can put some wacky characters, as like most Marvel films are like this, actually, like you've got real apocalyptic and scary settings, and then you just put a load of comedic upbeat characters in them, and it instantly makes it PG-13, and the perils just is dialed down completely, and it's all yay. But if you put nitty-gritty characters in there that are just going through some shit, it becomes a very different experience for everybody, and I think that's the same in D&D.
It can become a bit of a slog when it's dark constantly. And I mean, it might not be that way for some people, but I know it is for me, and it was getting that way for the table, so we needed to lighten the mood a little bit. And there have been times when we've brought guests on the game where we've said, you get to be the comedy because we're about to go do something a little dark, and so we need you to just be a little bit goofy.
We need you to cheer us up a little bit at this point. Just clown around, do something, please. And we've been very blessed that our guests have been like on to take on that role when they do come in. But yeah, it's one of those things where, and I think it's the weirdest thing that there's so many players that think they have to kill their characters off when their character has been going through a lot, and they don't want to deal with that character anymore. Send your character on a vacation. And just bring in someone new.
I've done that with players before, and just been like, look, I think when I've started campaigns, I'm like, look, if at any point you want to change your character, it's totally fine. Like if at any point it stops being fun playing that character, or if you're not liking the class or something like that, you don't feel like you fit into the group dynamic, it's fine. They can just go, and it'll be a cool little storytelling exercise for me to be like, right, how am I going to bring this next person in, which is always fun.
Indoor Adventures just did a masterful switch, because we did have a character who in our Wild Beyond the Witchlight game did die, and that player was like, no, I'm okay with this being the final death. So we did bring in a new character as we were grieving this person's previous character, and it was actually a really beautiful merger of what we were in for, because we had this character who was coming in and saying, no, I can see you're going through a lot. Like, I'm just going to be here on the side just to kind of I'm going to ask a few questions here and there to figure out what's going on for clarification for me. But we also, in the same session, mixed in having a funeral and grieving this other character. And it's honestly a really beautiful session. But you don't necessarily have to kill your character off to go.
No, it's endings are a part of stories because they're a part of life, right? So that can be a good, a nice experience for people's characters, because that gives them an ending of sorts, But if people are just like, oh, I'm fed up with this character, I'm just gonna kill them off, like you say, you don't need to be doing that.
Send them on vacation. Have them get married and go on a honeymoon for however long. Have them never come back. It's fine. Just send them off.
It's funny how you mentioned bringing the comedy character to offset the darkness a bit. Because one thing I won't actually do, I feel uncomfortable with. A few people have said to me, I've heard a lot of people either say to me in person, or I've heard a lot of people online say, oh, I really want to play an evil campaign. I have that's something I have no interest in ever doing, is just making someone in like an evil campaign. it's just not for me. Not for me. Most of my characters are usually like Boy Scouts, you know, that type anyway. My only kind of, if I have a dodgy character, like a bit shady, like Davin's probably my shadiest one, but I offset him with comedy, you know. I like he's you know, he's selfish, but he's so selfish that he's vain and narcissistic in a caricaturized way. So yeah, he might leave you to die, but that's because he's just like, oh no, I don't want to, you know, get killed by goblins. What am I doing here? Off I go. You know, it's not, even though, you know, he's leaving his friends to die.
I think there is a way to do evil campaigns, but again, you have to have your campaign calibration tools in place, because you have to have boundaries with that.
Yeah.
And you definitely have to have aftercare with that. But I've gotten more comfortable personally with the idea of an evil campaign after playing more Vampire the Masquerade.
Yes. Yeah.
Because there's no way that you're the good guy when you're playing a vampire.
No.
You have to go out and find people to eat them. Like,
there's
I mean, no way around it.
Yeah, I think, because don't get me wrong, I've been in many campaigns where we're like, I mean, we literally played in a one shot of the weekend. We did a short Strahd one shot. And we were definitely like murder hobos. We were not the good guys. We're the baddies in this situation. But yeah, what I would be like, if I were to go, okay, we're playing an evil campaign where we're playing evil characters, I would have to know a lot about what exactly it was we were playing, as in like, oh yeah, you are vampires and this is your this is your goal that you want to achieve. But what I wouldn't want to play is like, oh yeah, you know, you're barbarians and you just want to cause pain and suffering. I'd be like, no, not for me. Not for me.
I mean, and when it comes to evil, you also have to remind yourself from time to time that the villains are their own heroes.
Yeah.
The villains are the heroes of their story. You're the villain in the heroes, or in the villain's story. You're the villain.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of different ways that you can go about a quote unquote evil campaign. But yeah, it takes trust.
Yeah, no, a lot of trust. And let's kind of circling back to the calibration tools. For us, because you know, we had a few games just devolve into breaking down. So it's something that we find very important to do now. And we it's actually Robin that ran a one shot and used some of the like pre-game session zero safety tools, the lines and veil stuff, and she sent it out to a load of friends, people that we'd literally been playing since like 2018, 2017. One person was part of our wedding party. And he filled out the form. Bear in mind, we played games with this person for a long time. And there was something on their list that me and Ron were like, we had no idea that they were uncomfortable with that.
Yeah.
No idea. And it was also something that turns up pretty regularly in D&D games, you know, things that would, you know, you wouldn't be surprised if it turned up on, you know, these big streaming D&D things. You know, I think that's half the problem. Sometimes people see that they absorb a D&D game as content and then go, oh, well, if it's on there, if it's on Game of Thrones, obviously, you know, these people love Game of Thrones, so surely I can bring those themes into the game. That's not always the case.
Game of Thrones that I skipped, and I still love the show. So
there's still scenes I skip.
But there is no skip, exactly, because you're not the one. But if you're the one if you're the one interacting with another human being in a role play situation, there's no skip button, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But yeah, it's amazing. You will find out things about friends that they're just like, yeah, I don't really want to see this in game, and it's rarely ever a big deal. But we are, I won't say we, I'll speak for myself. I am part of a generation that I was told to be nice.
Yes.
Just be nice, stick it out. and I think there may be quite a few people my age that were also raised that way when they were in grade school, and that gets ingrained in you. And so you don't want to say like, hey, the bullying that our party is experiencing by an NPC that's directed at our party, that doesn't feel good. Like, you don't want to say that because from where you're sitting, it looks like everyone else is okay with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you don't want to be the odd one out because then you're spoiling everyone else's fun. But if we just normalize these honest conversations,
yes,
your friends adjust.
Yeah, because otherwise the conversations come out later on, either between, you're sitting at home with your family members who don't play, or other players at the table that might be feeling the same way. Especially when games literally just go, because I have been in games where you at the end it's just like, all right, well, see you next week, or bye, off I go, and you're just like, it's just cut off, especially when you're playing online, because then everyone's gone and you'll just sat at your computer screen being like, I don't know how I feel about that, and then it kind of stews in your mind, and then that's what creates a lot of the agony. Sometimes it's not so much what's happening in the game, it's the hours afterwards of being like, oh, and then then they did this, and why were they doing this to my character, and I didn't get to do anything, I don't feel like I'm being taken seriously in game, and which might not be the case, but if no one knows the information, it's not going to change until it devolves into.
I've had those nights.
Yeah,
absolutely. You say something in character that you as a person, that's not your feelings, but the character has a different set of feelings than you, and so you say something that's a bit snarky, or you're a major asshole in game, and so normalizing just like checking in with other players, getting ways to check in the moment, either with like hand signals or with like a card system of some sort, is really important. There have been plenty of times where I've been like, oh my gosh, they must hate me now. And then I'll DM them like 3 days later, and the friend will just be like, oh no, I was eating that up. In fact, can you lean into it a little bit more? Yeah. And because I have a character right now, Clever Jack, who's in my new Numenera campaign on Saturdays. There's another player and I that we have a snarky sibling relationship.
Yeah.
And some people can't do that. Some people can't jab at one another repeatedly for 3 hours and just be snarky little a-holes to each other. But that player and I, we're having fun with it. This is our fun. The dynamic between the characters is fun for us. And the table and our audience is enjoying it. But we have that relationship together as players because we communicate and clarify and we're comfortable with each other.
No, I've definitely been on I've been on both sides of that. I've definitely acted a certain way, and I thought it was being reciprocated, and then they didn't actually say, oh yeah, I feel like your character's picking on me. It was just, I kind of found out third hand, which is the worst way to find out. And then I've had it flipped as well. I've had people kind of, prodding my character because I'm playing it a certain way, and I'm like, it's actually not that fun. I'm playing it because I find it fun that my character is maybe a bit naive, but 3 hours of 5 people being like, oh yeah, oh, isn't Ollie's character an idiot? It's like, that's not fun. That's not fun.
No, it's not fun, and it's not fun. It's not fun at any time it happens. I had a player that I was playing, my Shatterkai Death Cleric, and she's a sex worker. And so a lot of her story is a little bit sexier. We were in clubs. We were she was a dancer and an escort, and there was a player at the table who kept making jabs about, jokes, Morrigan could just like seduce so and so, and I had to put a stop to it and say, like, I need you to not sexually objectify my character based on her profession. That's her job. That's how she makes money, and it's legitimate work. You need to stop assuming that my character is just going to screw everything that we come across. And he was like, I didn't know. I'm so sorry. And we moved on, and the rest of the campaign was a lot of fun.
Well, that's the thing. If people know, and sometimes people don't. Some people don't know that. That they're doing it either. That's the thing. And a lot of the time it is. And the thing is, obviously, you play on stream. A lot of us that play on stream, you know, we're putting ourselves out there and we're choosing to be on camera. But yeah, for the majority of people aren't streaming, you know, and you know, like you said earlier about sometimes people, you know, they don't have, you know, the best communication skills, you know, maybe they're very good communicators, but they've never done role playing, is completely out of their comfort zone completely. So when people are uncomfortable, they do, you know, they do strange things sometimes, you know, and they'll say strange things.
Yeah. And it's okay to get the feedback that what you did is not okay.
Yeah.
It's not okay to continue doing it after you get that feedback. So it's one of those things where it's a learning process for everyone.
Yeah.
And once you do learn what is okay and what is not, and if you cross a line and apologize and make sure not to do it again, like as long as everyone's genuine at the table, life goes on and you have a really great story by the end of it with some people who are probably going to be pretty close friends for a while.
Oh yeah,
exactly. And like that's a good thing about having the safety, about having like the stars and wishes at the end and things, is the fact that you're actually there in person. You're able to have that conversation instead of 3 days later to get a message to say, oh, this wasn't really good what you did here, and then you end up kind of stewing on it and being like, oh my gosh, no, I didn't mean that, and then I'm gonna have to wait until next week before we're all back on camera together so I can then like chat about it, and then you start to, it knocks confidence on both sides. But also if you, like you were saying, Oliver, about, you know, ending a game and it just stopping and then you're sitting there stewing over it for a while, you're just like, oh, I'm going to have to wait a week before I bring up how uncomfortable I am. But then there's not an appropriate time. You need that bit at the end of the game.
And by the time the next game starts, you're like in it, you're just like, I'm not gonna, it's fine, it's not come up again this time, so I'm just gonna leave it, and then inevitably of course it comes up again because it hasn't been flagged. I'm hopefully you do come out with that YouTube video. I'd be super interested. I think people would get a lot of value out of it. I really do. I think especially with a lot of new people coming into the hobby constantly, there's constantly waves of people coming in, like we said earlier. I think people would definitely get value out of that.
It might come out, it might not, it might come out with just the comments turned completely off. We'll see how I'm feeling and whether or not I'm ready to deal with all the people who are going to call me a woke snowflake who's ruining their Dungeons and Dragons game.
I mean, like that comes onto your self-care as well in that situation. I think that comes down to the content creating, is when at what point, you know, do you need to remember that it's, you know, your health as well, and something as simple as turning off comments can make a huge difference to that.
I have this conversation all the time, especially with people who are starting to step into the waters and experiencing heavy trolling for the first time. Your comment section is your house. Are you going to let someone walk into your house and treat you like crap and then let them stay? No, you're going to kick their asses out. So I am very liberal with the ban hammer. I banned someone for Ollie the other day. I'm sure he told you, Robin.
He did, yes.
I didn't even realize that I was a mod for y'all.
Oh no, I think we made you a mod like when we started.
You might have been the first one we made a mod.
But I don't play. It's not my job to, I mean, obviously, like when I'm talking about like calibration tools and stuff, and like we're all learning at a table together, like that is my time to do a little bit of teaching. But as a content creator, it's not your job to teach people how to treat you. No, you deserve kindness, dignity, and respect, just like every other human. And if someone can't do that, ban them. No, wait and see. No, well, maybe they'll learn if they stick around. No, ban
why?
them.
Yeah, why? I mean, that's the one thing about, you have a massive reach. You know, you can reach everybody in the world on the internet, almost everybody. And there are a lot of not very nice people out there, but there are also, it doesn't matter if you lose that one person, you know. It's not, you don't want those people around. In our first foray into kind of D&D streaming that didn't quite work out, that's one thing I pushed quite a lot was, look, you know, if anyone, because, you know, when we started out, there was a few circumstances where people came in, said things, and I was like, we just need to get rid of them. And the person that was trying to be at the helm was like, oh no, just give me a signature. I'm like, I don't care.
No.
I don't care if it's some big corporation. I don't care if it's Wizards of the Coast or whoever's coming in. If they're coming in and being abusive, then they need to go. Like, it's not fair.
People have rolled into my TTRP chats before, and I ban this. I'll ban them on site when they're like, what the fuck am I watching? Like, Google's free.
Yeah.
You don't know what TTRPGs are you don't know what this category means? Google's free.
Yeah.
Because people who come into a chat with that attitude, they're almost never there to actually learn what's going on. No. And I just don't have the time for trolls. There are too many people who are wonderful in the world that require my time and attention. And if you're going to come in and troll, sorry, you don't get the funny elf content anymore. You're going to have to go somewhere else.
Yeah, exactly.
It's good though to show your viewers and your fans and things that as well, though. It shows they're seeing how you treat yourself and how you value yourself. And as an extension of that, they're more likely to value themselves a little bit more when they're faced in those situations. You know, if they're try streaming or try content creation and they're faced with that, they'll be like, oh yeah, I remember something similar happened, you know, in the Hype Goblins chat, and she just got rid of them straight away. I'm going to do that as well. It's fun to do that.
I would really love to see more creators not engage with their trolls, honestly.
Yeah.
I get that it's easy content. I get that everyone loves to have that zinger hitting back at the bullies, but people troll and bully out of a place of pain. There's something going on in their life where they are unhappy personally, and there is nothing you can say or do to reach them, and they just need to go on their own life journey and heal themselves. So the best thing, honestly, to do for another person who's feeling that way is just to block them, not respond, and move on. And not make them the punchline of a joke as well.
It's definitely a mental bandwidth issue as well, because it's one thing, you know, standing up to someone, you know, in your real world life, or someone that you interact with a lot, you work with, you're friends with, who's a family member. But when you're dealing with, you know, thousands, potentially hundreds of thousands of people on the internet, a human being doesn't have the mental bandwidth to deal with all that. You can't not deal with it.
There's a combined total. I think I have like 130,000 people following me. I don't have the time to deal with the bullies.
No.
They don't get to come into my space. Everyone else who is there is wonderful, kind, a lot of fun. But you're gonna have to behave if you're gonna come hang out with me.
Yeah. So you're branching more out into YouTube now, right? Because I noticed you're streaming on YouTube as well, and you're creating. Is that something you want to start doing more of, like making TTRPG videos, tutorials, things like that? 'Cause I'm talking about safety tools and safety calibration tools. Is that one thing that you're going to lean into?
For right now, yes. My current goal is to get out at least one video a month. I know they all say you're supposed to do weekly, but you know what? I have a life that I also like. I have a partner. I have family things going on. I can't maintain that schedule until I hire like an editor and a producer to do that, the back end stuff. If I just was recording and then shipping it off to someone else, I could do that. But yeah, my goal is to once a month get a video out that's based on the common questions that I get asked. And that's where the inspiration for the safety tools video came from, because people were asking, what are they? And I was giving the same answer over and over and over again. So I want to create things that people, when they ask me their common questions, they can go and find the answer because it's already there, and I can just say, oh, I did a YouTube video on that, go check it out.
And it's that type of thing. You want to do like the evergreen stuff, right? Because fair enough, you could kind of think, oh, you know, do I do a how to play D&D video, or do I do a reaction video? A reaction video is great if you've got the time to do them, but a how to play D&D video, people are likely to come back to that in 5 years time and go, oh, this is how you play D&D, or this is how you find a D&D game, or what is D&D, you know?
Yeah, the instructional content that I'm getting ready to do is how do you set up OBS for a TTRPG?
Yes. Yes.
Oh, that's a good one.
How do you split off audio? What tools can you use to get separate audio to produce an actual play podcast over the internet? Yeah. That's the kind of stuff that I want to start doing, because it has been exhausting for me to figure out how to do it. And I know you guys asked me questions when you were starting up your stuff.
Yeah.
I've had other friends ask me questions when I change something and it's like, oh, that's a good idea, I should do that too. People still ask me how to set up Google Meets for TTRPGs. So there's a lack of information video content wise about that sort of stuff that is specific to the niche. And you can piece it together from other sources, but from what I've seen, no one has sat down and done a good, clear instructional video on how do you window capture Zoom with an overlay. So
people like to get their information from people they like, you know, even if there was, like you said, there isn't really one, but you know, if there was 100 other how to capture, you know, a TTRPG with OBS, the importance is that they want to hear the Hype Goblin talk about how you do your OBS, you know.
And in my opinion, like there's a lot of AP producers and stuff who will just be like, well, this is I went to school for this, so I'm not gonna tell you how to do this for free. And I'm just like, we don't grow, we don't push each other if the information isn't out there. Like really, like telling someone how to set up a stream is like their product starting out probably isn't going to compete with my product anyway, so I'm not worried about that. I just want more people to be able to try it and to be able to easily find what they need, so that they have the tools to start doing it. Because the more people that do it, the more competition there is, and the more we continue to push each other to be better and do better things and be more innovative.
And hey, our biggest supporters in content creations have been from other content creators. They're the best members of your community, you know?
Absolutely. I mean, I help out all of my friends who start getting into it. Like I will sit down with you and I'll have a conversation. We'll go point by point, everything that you need to know. And I have friends who do that for me as I'm getting into podcasting. I've had friends like go over what programs to use with me from their own experience and what worked and what didn't, because they've tried everything under the sun and they've been doing this longer than I have. I have a friend I want to write for the DMs Guild. One of my friends, it has like platinum selling DMs Guild stuff out there, and he's just like, okay, well, let me just look it over. Like, we'll make sure that it's formatted properly. Like, we'll make sure like stuff works. When I was struggling with thumbnails, like I had a friend reach out or like step in and be like, send me all the assets and I'll help you with it. Sort of a deal. And that's what the creator community is and it's should
be.
There's nothing that will get you kicked out of the creator community faster than if you're just a gatekeeper who doesn't talk. Like, you don't have to talk industry, but like if you're obviously gatekeeping, we know who does that, and we don't. Like you get pushed out of the circles pretty fast if you start acting like that.
It's very short sighted as well. It's not, the world's not like it used to be in the creative industry. Like you know, that the rising tide lifts all the boats in this circumstance, because
absolutely
the people that have come to like our content have come from literally have come from other content creators. They haven't come from seeing a billboard on the side of the road saying 2Have 2Role have got a podcast. You know, that it's come from people will come up to it. I mean, someone came up to us at the weekend at the LARP event and said, oh, they were speaking to another LARPing podcaster that have been around for a lot longer than we have. And they said, oh, I was literally by the campfire with them, and they said, oh, you should check these guys out. And I was like, that warms my heart even more than someone coming up being like, oh, I listened to it and I enjoyed it. Having someone come up and say, another content creator recommends you, it's like, oh, but it's not like, oh, we're on 2 different channels, you have to choose which one of us to watch. You can sit down and watch a Hype Goblin video, and then you can go off and watch another content creator's video. There's no
in the age of the internet that we live in now, like you can consume my content at any time of day, but like if like I will tell you who else you need to go see, because they're people that I genuinely enjoy. And one thing that I've always been very clear about with people who follow me is I don't work with a lot of companies because I'm not going to hawk things that I don't believe in. I'm not going to introduce you to people for clout. I'm not going to introduce you to people that I don't genuinely enjoy. I mean,
mobile games that
I'm not gonna sell you eyeglasses. Like, that's not my niche. First of all, that was a really weird email I was on. But I'm also not gonna sell you. I'm not also gonna sell, like, I'm not gonna be like, oh yeah, you need to go talk to this person because I want to gain favor with them. Like, I'm gonna send you to my friends who I actually like. Like, I'm sending people to you. I'm sending people to Saucefire. Sending people to Tal. Like, I send people to the folks that I genuinely enjoy.
Yeah.
Because that's probably where you're going to find me, honestly, most of the time. Like, if I'm telling you to go watch someone, you're probably going to see me in someone else's chat more than you'll see me in my own.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the thing. And then you build these communities of actual friends, because, we were in a community that imploded, and you see it's popping up all the time. Unfortunately, these communities, they just implode from the top down because people work off, like you say, I want to work with this person because they are such and such within this community, and we want to collaborate literally because of that, not because I actually really love spending time talking to this person about it.
The fastest way for me to put up a wall between me and someone else is for them to come and be like, oh well, the first thing to be like, oh well, we need to game together, or oh well, we need to play TTRPGs on stream together, or I've had some people that said, like, you need to put me on Nexus Adventures, and I will be like, no, the fuck I don't. I don't know who you are.
Piss off.
Maybe like there's some very obvious like social climbing aspects of what we do as creators.
Yes.
And when I smell any of that, I'm out, because I have been on too many for-profit channels that just treat me like I'm their moneymaker, that I don't stick around.
No,
I don't. No. If I'm not, I'm there to have fun, and I'm not there to be treated like a commodity.
Yeah, and people pick up on that, don't they? Yeah. That's the thing. You know when someone's there, and especially if you watch. I mean, because it is getting so popular now, and there are certain D&D streams that are like they get these, some of these celebrities are like genuine D&D enthusiasts, and you can tell, and some of them are literally just there because this is the hot thing right now, and you can tell their agent has been like, I think you should go on this D&D thing stream, and they're like, okay.
You can always tell the difference between people who are there or people who are putting out products because they genuinely enjoy what they're doing, like, or at least I can. I don't know. I have a bullshit like version of the Spidey sense. If someone's BSing me, I can sniff it out. I can tell if you don't really like me as a person, because I've had that happen to me enough at this point where people think they're being sneaky, but it's written all over their faces for me.
Yeah.
So
high wisdom, high insight.
And honestly, my most fulfilling projects tend to come out of the things that I do with my friends. Yeah. So that's just been my experience. Even things that I start out really excited for that are paid projects. Nothing is more fun to me than collaborating with my friends and like surprising and delighting all of those chuckleheads that I love so much.
You make those memories together, and they actually mean something, and more than just you know, doing it for the sake of it.
We've loved having you here with me and Robin, other chuckleheads that we are.
I love hanging out with y'all. Both when we're making something and when we're not.
Exactly. Do you want to tell people where they can find you? Do you want to plug anything? Any upcoming projects?
Gosh. Well, I'm gonna be starting up a podcast with Indestructible Boy and Dungeon Dad. It's called Dead Level Podcast. Dead Level Podcast. You can find us on all social medias right now. I literally just made the accounts yesterday. So
Yes.
please go follow us if you're interested in some nerd chatting or just, you know, think 80s themed icons are cool.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah, we went with like a VHS retro-y kind of look for it.
Yes. Love it.
Oh, it's so good. Taryn did a great job on the graphics for it. So that's going to be coming up. That's really the only new thing that I have to. Oh, I have another thing. Tubular Teens with Titans. It's a Power Rangers style audio drama and my first foray into voice acting.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's so goofy and so much fun. I'm taking over the role of Desdemona starting episode 7, which should be coming out in the next week or two. Definitely go check it out. One of my friends brought me onto the project, and that's been a lot of fun. That's my other newest thing. Everything else, if you want to find me, I'm the Hype Goblin on all social media, and if it's over on my Twitter, linked in my bio, my full schedule of where you can find me. It'll take me 2 years to go through everything.
Fantastic. Yeah, we've loved having you, and we need to have you on again. It's like the time has flown. We could talk to you forever, and it's always just fun hanging out with you, Sarah. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for coming on, and we're going to say, I guess we'll say goodbye.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on, and yeah, goodbye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Happy adventuring.
That's that voice actor talent coming through. She's even got the mic skills as well now. See you later, everyone. If you enjoyed this show, make sure that you follow and subscribe so you know when a new episode is posted. You can leave a review, you can share it around, it would really help us out, and we appreciate you doing that. And remember, you can catch us live on twitch.tv/2have_2role. That's the number 2 and roll is into roleplay. Thank you very much for listening.